Last week we had a priest that laid the foundation for a lot of what you all would like to say but too frightened. But you leave it to Brother Charles. I bring you warm greetings from St. Thomas. And I'm the country buck here in town this evening. I am here in suburban Barbados. But I want you to know that we are not just here because we feel like getting up a Sunday evening and coming to a meeting. We are here because we are the Barbadians who love this country, who have already made our contribution to the growth and development of Barbados. And we have an inept government that seems to think that after them it can be nothing because everything is just whittling away, even the walls ain't coins. But you have your children and your grandchildren and your generations to come who have to survive in this country. We can go nowhere else. And therefore, we must help to point Barbadians in a direction where we can get stability, where we can achieve those goals that are associated with good governance, transparency, accountability, fairness, and all the other things that go with it. And the only way we can get it done is through the voices of the people, with the cooperation of the people to make a difference in our wonderful country, Barbados. And so this evening, it's not my time to talk, except to tell you we have a slate of Barbadians, distinguished Barbadians in their own rights, who have come this evening to talk with you. And I encourage you to ask some questions. And if you don't ask the questions, in the 1-minute breaks that I will get, I shall ask some. Because I have not come into political life to save any pension. If I had remained in the classroom, I would have been a principal par excellence. But I chose to come to politics because I believe I can make a contribution in a wider sphere. And so I have made the sacrifice. And we who have come into the political arena in the Barbados Labour Party's end, that's the group I can speak for with a measure of authority. We have come to serve the people of Barbados and to help for this country to grow from strength to strength, to become the developed country we were aiming towards under none other than the Right Excellent O.N.C. Boatha. And so this evening, thank you for coming. People are on the way. Somebody was blocking the entrance, and they know just now. We're a jumper, and just now, this hall is going to be packed. And I want you to pack on some questions on these panelists here, or on these presenters here, so that you can get some answers, or we are looking for you to help to give us some solutions to the various issues that are plaguing this country. And when we as a party were ready to point the Democratic Labour Party in a direction and steer them back on course, you know what the favorite expressions were. I can hear Don Villinis now. We don't want to hear now from when 14 years and nothing to show. Well, he said nothing, I said nothing. I have the track record of the Barbados Labour Party here from way back in the 50s. And right up until 2008, January, that you yourself can't even remember some of the landmark strides that we made to help this country to have reached the stage it was at again. And we put it in the hands of a bunch of jokers who know not what they do, and every minute we are slipping and slipping and slipping, because the Democratic Labour Party said, we are raising a society, not an economy. Be jinxing the mashup all too. Society liquor, economy liquor, people's lives and their psyches liquor. Under the Democratic Labour Party, the Barbados Labour Party will restore it for you. God bless you. Please. So I'm ready to give you your first distinguished speaker. He used to be a young man a few years ago, but I know that the economic situation mashed in the hotel industry too, because the Prime Minister, who had been given a letter from the BHTA in 2012, March, refused to meet them. And they begged in the public's domain. And 5 months later, he had a little meeting with them. And now, Sandals getting all the concessions. None other that Mr. Ian Gooding-Edgehill, a man who served as a senator, he is going to speak with you this evening about some of the issues. Please welcome him warmly.
Good afternoon, comrades. Good afternoon to the family of the Barbados Labour Party. You know, whenever we are called upon to do a job, we do it well. And whenever we're in government, we do a good job. So I want to say, and to support Cynthia's comment as well, that we will never run away from anybody. We will never run away from any political fight, but we will do what is right and within the law to help Barbados. So I want to say thank you again for attending this meeting. And I want to say to, of course, you know, I share the border here as well. So even though we are in St. Michael Northwest, it's still appropriate for me to say greetings to the people St. Michael West Central. And, you know, if they thought that I was going anywhere, I think they know by now that I'm not going anywhere, because I am still doing some work, albeit quietly. I got some signs put up in the constituency, and they almost wanted to dispatch with haste the people who were doing their jobs. But I am not here to talk about that this evening. I am here because, and let's be frank, the Democratic Labour Party, in our view, and certainly in the view of many whom spoken to in the constituency, they have betrayed you, the people of Barbados. And we've got to start from that premise, that here is, in 2014, we are being faced with a situation where the Democratic Labour Party can come to you and say to 3,000 plus workers that you have to go home. In the election campaign of 2013, they maligned the Barbados Labour Party, and they tried to give the impression that it was the Barbados Labour Party that was meant to be sending home thousands of public workers. I remember well, there are some people in Allenby Gap who work in the transport system and at Water Authority who were exercising grave concern because they never associate, and they don't associate, the Barbados Labour Party with that type of behavior. But the television ads that they had on their broadcasting channel known as CBC propagated a position, and some people weren't sure, and we understand in politics, and we've been around in elective politics for a long time to know that sometimes, you know, people get nervous. But we understand that. And we don't quarrel with you. And there's no quarrel with you. But the issue is today that having come to the people of Barbados and assured you in a general election campaign that they were not going to send one single public servant home, this evening I say to you that the Democratic Labour Party, they've already agreed, and it's been made clear that 3,000 public servants must go. But what they didn't tell you, and we've been telling you in the Barbados Labour Party, that you have close to almost 1,500 that will lose their jobs in statutory corporations in Barbados. So it is not 3,000, it is 3,000 plus. And at the end of the day, you don't know where the number will finish. Because let's be honest, the Prime Minister says he doesn't want to deal with any number of persons going home, but you have to look at the figure. So let us look at the figure. We don't know what that figure is. We don't know what that figure is. And until you tell us the figure, then we don't know how many more people will go home. But one thing is certain, that the Democratic Labour Party betrayed the people of Barbados. And we cannot And we cannot mix matters with this point at all. They came to you and they lied to you. And some of the 3,000 that went home, and sorry, and it really bothers me because you shouldn't be sending home people in such numbers. Because you're going to have issues in your society if you do such a thing in such large numbers. But some of those very people, as reported in the newspapers, would have been people who even went and supported and even in some cases nominated some of the Democratic Labour Party personnel to run the last election. You know, but it is wrong. It is wrong for a government to deny an election campaign that they were not going to send home people, but come to you months later and say to you, look, we have this problem and we have to send home thousands. It is wrong. It is wrong. But I say to you, and you have trusted the Barbados Labour Party for years. And if you look to the wall to the right, you have some great Barbados Labour Party leaders. Tom Adams. You have Bernard St. John. Who else you got there on the wall that you recognize? Owen Seymour Arthur. I'm not going to recognize the others. I recognize proud and solid Barbados Labour Party leaders who have done an outstanding job. And when you look there and you see Tom Adams, what do you say? When you see Tom Adams, what do you say? A man who had to lead Barbados through some troubled waters. But at the end of the day, the people decided, you know what? You came to us, you leveled with us, and you deserve another term. And he gave, and the people of Barbados gave Tom Adams and the BLP another term. Yeah, Bernard St. John can want a more decent and honest politician in Barbados than Bernard St. John. A man who knew trade well and tourism. A man who understood what it was like to lead and not to surrender a country in the face of what some people said would have been an expected defeat, ladies and gentlemen. He placed Barbados first before country. We can't say that about the Dems. We can't say that. And Owen Arthur, when we went through some tough times, he came to the country, he spoke to the country, and he led the country through the challenges. We have people within the Barbados Labour Party who can stand up and attest. Cynthia can speak to this better than I can. Because there are people who serve with Tom Adams and with Bernard St. John and with Owen Arthur who would tell you that when a country is going through what it is going through today, you have to sit. You have to talk the country through changes, but you have to level the country. And you cannot say at any time that the leaders within the Barbados Labour Party have ever decided to put their personal interests before the country's best affairs. And we have that proud legacy within the Barbados Labour Party. We can't say it for the Democratic Labour Party. But I say to you, and as a former candidate who ran an election in the last election campaign, I say to you proudly that the Barbados Labour Party went out there night after night. We warned you about what was the intended consequences if the people voted for the Democratic Labour Party. Some people said we were possessed and we are power hungry. We say no, we are not possessed and we are not power hungry. We wanted the best, as we've always said. And as proud as our motto will put it, we want a better life for our people. And that is our mission in politics, ladies and gentlemen. And we have remained faithful and true to that mission. And I say to you, despite our warning, they did whatever they had to do, money and all. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, there's no more money. No more money. But I say to you proudly that the Barbados Labour Party, all the candidates who ran in the last election campaign, I say to you as an institution, we have been vindicated, ladies and gentlemen. We have been vindicated. We told you about the Democratic Labour Party. We knew this was going to happen, and they tried to turn the tables on the BLP. But if, they felt it worked because they won by a very slender majority, I say to you that they are now in so much trouble that they do not know what to do. It is like the blind leading the blind. And I say to you that the Democratic Labour Party must have a special place in history. And that special place in history has to be that they must be known as the greatest job destroyers Barbados have ever seen, ladies and gentlemen. Barbadians have ever seen. You will not think that coming after a 1991 to 94 period, that you would have imagined a government, a Democratic Labour Party would have come to you again in 2013 with the same mission that they executed on you, the people of Barbados, between 1991 and 1994. You understand? They walk about and as though nothing has happened. They want to believe, they're believing their own folly and would like the people of Barbados to believe that this thing is happening by some international recession. Finished long time ago. St. Lucia up and on the go and moving. Other Caribbean countries are on the go. And proud Barbados, that has always been a leader in this region, proud Barbados, grappling and struggling to survive, and they can't get investments to come to this part of the world, but you can get investments going elsewhere in the region. And I can speak to that later. And all of this is happening. And despite all the talk, and I must tell you that they went to the subcommittee of the social partnership. And the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Civil Service made the point that 3,000 public servants will go. And some of them will go on a political sojourn, not the permanent secretary, not the PS. But there were others. You hear one minister saying it will be less than 3,000. Another minister said it will be more than 3,000. And at that meeting, the unionists asked the question, at the meeting of the subcommittee of the social partnership, the unionists asked the question, how many people going home? And it came out 3,000. But a follow-up question was asked, is that inclusive of people working in statutory corporations? No. They have their boards, was the answer, and they would have to respond, but directives have been given to them to cut. So you understand what we're dealing with. But we have not had a full meeting of the social partnership, a partnership that they like to embrace and go all over the world, including their monthly sojourn to Geneva, to lavish and heap praise on. But the Prime Minister of the country has not found it fit yet to convene a full meeting of the social partnership to deal with these issues at hand, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot be sending home 3,000 people and you use delegated authority. You cannot be sending home another 1,500 from statutory boards and use delegated authority. You have to come to the people and you have to come to the same partnership that you believe in and say to the partnership the true position. And I say to you, these things are happening in Barbados. And, it is sad. And, I don't understand for the life of me how people could be paying union dues. And they can attack me from now to tomorrow because, in the last election campaign, I was very civil. And I did not go, and some people know that I can use my tongue well too. But I was extremely civil in the last election campaign. But I do not know, and you must be able to help me. Why is it that a union, or any union leader for that matter, would tell the people of Barbados that the public service was overstaffed and that it was only a matter of time you had to cut back? Now, why would you be collecting dues from people and turn around and you are telling the very people your members who are paying dues that the government service was overstaffed and therefore you had to cut? Well, I don't understand it at all. I really don't understand it. And it is shocking because I didn't believe I was hearing it, but I heard it on the radio. But I say to you that C2SAB, well, they used to represent 13 major unions, but won out. So I would say they represent 12 major unions. But let me cast you back to April 2013. You know, there was a row between C2SAB and BW. And some matters had to go to what you call the Credentials Committee of the International Labour Organization. And you had some disclosures at the ILO. The government reported that C2SAB represented 13 major trade unions and staff associations, including the BW. But listen to this. The registered membership of C2SAB as of April 2013 was 25,063. This number included 10,000 members of the BW. Well, I am just using those numbers to draw a comparison and to tell you something. That at the last election, and I stand corrected, more than, and help me here, tell me if I'm wrong, Cynthia, more than 70,000 people voted for the Barbados Labour Party. And there was only a 4,000 difference, as Cynthia reminds me, between us and the Dems. So the Barbados Labour Party had approximately 70,000 people who went to the polls and supported this political institution. More than the combined membership of C2SAB. And we have a responsibility. And we are asking anybody from any trade union movement for help. We have a responsibility to those 70,000 people to look out for their interests and to defend their interests in the public domain. And we don't need any of them. And I say that not with any emotion, but I say it with all the candor in my heart. That they represent 25,000 and 70,000 people voted for the Barbados Labour Party. And they can't contradict that because the system is clear on you and Jews in Barbados. And as a political party, we have always had a good level of support in this country. And I'm sure that if you look at some of the same 25,000 people who are members, that some of those would have voted for us too, and we can include those. And some of the disaffected 3,000 that going home would have supported us too, and we can include those, ladies and gentlemen. But I say to you, that is the Barbados Labour Party as a political institution. We have always, going back to the days of the Right Excellent Grantley Adams, we've always protected workers. Always protected workers. And we do not intend to depart at this juncture, at this critical juncture in our history. We don't intend to depart from ensuring that we support you and the other workers out there in Barbados. We will not turn a blind eye, and we will never, ever leave you standing in the wilderness, ladies and gentlemen. And you can take that from me as a proud member of the Barbados Labour Party. We have done a lot of good in this country. I ain't want to take you back to the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act. But the one thing that I must commend, and Cynthia was in the cabinet at the time, the Barbados Labour Party for doing. And it is a master stroke that you don't hear the trade union movement talking about because you know where their loyalties lie. You don't hear them talking about these things. But I want to tell you that the one thing, and Cynthia, like I said, was part of the cabinet. The Barbados Labour Party cabinet approved legislation to amend the Constitution of Barbados. They went to the parliament and with a constitutional majority amended the Constitution so that people like you and others working in the public service would never have to be subjected to any salary cut in Barbados. And you know, this is a party with a vision, because we visualize that someday the people will grow tired and weary of you. But we never wanted to ensure, never ever wanted to have what happened between 1991 and 1994 to happen again as far as it related to the cut in workers' salaries, ladies and gentlemen. And we did the right thing. Could you imagine if we had not done, if the Barbados, your great and beloved political institution, had not done that, what would have happened today, ladies and gentlemen? They would have been out there, and they would be sending home people, and they would be cutting salaries, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't know where it is going to finish. We don't know where it is going to end. And I say to you that even though we don't know where it's going to end, we know one thing, that the Barbados Labour Party has a proud and distinguished record of protecting you, the workers. And the trade union movement will not talk about the amendment and the significance of that, but they will want to join with other interested parties and to suggest, look, we have a problem, we overstaff, and we have to go. And I hear this nonsense about wages and salary accounting for 50% of the government's revenue. Well, look, it is a simple thing. If you knew the public service was overstaffed in 2008 when you won the government, Democratic Labour Party, you shouldn't have added any more. If you felt so, that it is hypocritical. It is the height of hypocrisy for any Democratic Labour Party member to suggest to you, the people of Barbados, that the public service is overstaffed. When they came to office, go and check the numbers. When they came to office and they increased the public service. They did it. So don't come now and pretend that you have an issue with the wage bill being 50% of government's revenue. I say to you, you would have known that was a problem in 2008. But you added to the problem. So you can't be so hypocritical to come now and suggest that you have a problem with the wage bill. But you know, you could also have a problem with the wage bill if your revenue is deteriorating. Because you know, you can use the argument both ways. You can argue that the wage cost is going up as a percentage of revenue because your revenue is shrinking. But when it suits them, they will say and do what they have to say. I say to you, it is wrong and it is reprehensible for the government to be sending home 3,000 plus workers in this country. It is wrong and it's reprehensible. I know the people will deal with them in due course. But don't come to the people of Barbados and tell the people of Barbados that, you know, have to look to the private sector for jobs. Well, I don't know how many jobs the private sector can offer the people of Barbados. Because I also know that if you are investing in a country, you do so not at the expense of your balance sheet, but you also do so if you have confidence. And we know confidence is lacking. We know that because whenever I walk through the constituency next door, if I driving on my way to work, people calling me. If you meet people here walking the streets, they're telling you, look, man, mate, here's and try and see if you can get rid of this government. That is the refrain throughout Barbados. Don't care wherever you go. Am I wrong or am I right? That is the refrain in this country. And if you tell me that the people don't have confidence in this government, the DLP government, and if I'm also to believe that enterprises are under pressure in this country, and they will be under further pressure, because if you take 3,000, 4,000, or 6,000, or wherever the number can end up, you will have less money circulating in the economy. And the small people like the people in the salon, the nail technicians, the people you have to go to the shop and buy food from, the people who you can go and buy clothes from, ladies and gentlemen, they too sooner rather than later will feel the pressure and collapse. So when you bring private enterprises under pressure, what are you saying to the people? What are you saying to the people? And then when you have a policy that you want to operate not on a level playing field in the tourism sector, and it is the one sector that we really need to get working in order to lift the country out of the ruin, ladies and gentlemen. But you have a policy. You have a policy that favors one, but the others cannot benefit, ladies and gentlemen. What are you saying to investors in the business, be it local or foreign, ladies and gentlemen? And that is the problem we have to deal with. And if you're talking about investment, You have to create an environment of confidence. And if you don't create an environment of confidence, ladies and gentlemen, there is no way that people who you want to come and invest in this country will come and invest in this country. But you know, they say so on the one hand, and yet on the other hand, the government decides that they must enter the investment market. Almond Beach should have gone to private interest. The government stepped in and said, no, we want to take over and we can run it through BTI. But I want to know, and at some point in time, they're going to have to tell us how much money they're losing down there. And they said to you that they had to do it because they wanted foreign exchange. And they said to you, they had to go and they have to give a blanket approach to concessions to the other entity on the other side. And what has happened? But there must be fairness, ladies and gentlemen. But I say to you, and I must obey the chair. And I could tell you a lot more. But I know that you do not have any confidence in the Democratic Labour Party. Do you have confidence in the Democratic Labour Party? Well, if you don't have confidence in the Democratic Labour Party, other elements out there don't have confidence in the Democratic Labour Party. The 70,000 plus people who voted, approximately 70,000 people who voted for the Barbados Labour Party, they too don't have confidence in the Democratic Labour Party. Well, if you don't have confidence in your government, what should happen? And if we have to do what we have to do, we will do what we have to do. Within the law, of course. Within the law. And if I have to go and buy a few Nike softwares, ladies and gentlemen, because I might be called upon to do what I have to do within the law, I will do it, because this government certainly is the worst government we've ever had. So, I can go on and I can go on and I can go on. I had made some notes here, but poor me didn't get a chance to speak to the notes. But I say to you, but let me tell you, before I wrap up, let me tell the people, Michael West Central. I was there with you yesterday. I'm here with you today. And I will be there with you tomorrow. So, all the political coups that they want to do in the Democratic Labour Party by using people, and you can hear it this week, later this week, but I will deal with it later this week. That when they want to send operatives in an attempt to see if they can pull votes from the Democratic Labour Party, from the Barbados Labour Party, sorry, we will deal with that. But I want to say to you, to the people of St. Michael West Central, I am not going anywhere. I am staying with you for the long haul. It may be expensive, but it don't bother me. I will stay with you. And I want you, by extension, to stay with the Barbados Labour Party. Stay with the great leaders of the Barbados Labour Party. Stay with Mayor Motley and her team in Parliament and outside of Parliament. I want you, when we call upon you, to rub your shoulders and let us do what we have to do within the confines of the law, because we have no confidence in this government. This government must go. We have to rid the Barbados Labour Party, the Democratic Labour Party, from this land. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.